Have you ever read a message, knew exactly what you wanted to say, and then just didn't reply? Not because you forgot, not because you were too busy. You saw it, you read it, you even thought about your response. But something stopped you from actually typing it out and hitting send. Maybe you told yourself you'd reply when you had more energy. Maybe the message felt too heavy to deal with right now. Maybe you just didn't feel like it yet. And now, it's been 3 days, or a week, maybe longer. The message is still sitting there, marked as read. You've thought about it a dozen times. You've drafted responses in your head while brushing your teeth, driving to work, lying in bed at night. But you still haven't replied, and now responding feels even harder than it did on day one. Because how do you even start after this much time has passed? Here's what most people get wrong about this. They think you're rude. They think you don't care. They think you're playing games or being passive-aggressive. But that's not what's happening at all. You're not ignoring people because you don't value them. You're delaying because you care too much about getting it right. Or because your brain is protecting you from something you're not ready to face yet. This isn't about manners. It's about mental bandwidth. When you read a message, your brain immediately starts working. It's assessing the emotional weight of what was said. It's calculating what kind of response is expected. It's measuring how much energy this conversation is going to cost you. Some messages are light. A quick yes or sounds good, and you're done. But other messages, they require thought, emotion, presence. And if your brain decides you don't have enough of those resources available right now, it files the message away under "deal with this later." The problem is that later never quite arrives, because every time you think about responding, your brain runs the same calculation. Still too heavy, still too much, not ready yet. Psychologists call this decision fatigue. Every choice you make throughout the day depletes a little bit of your mental energy. And responding to messages, that's a choice. Sometimes dozens of choices packed into one text. What tone should you use? How much detail should you give? Are you too formal? Too casual? Will they misunderstand? Your brain treats these micro-decisions like real work. And when you're already mentally exhausted from actual work, relationships, responsibilities, the idea of crafting the perfect response feels impossible. There's also something called emotional labor at play. Certain messages require you to manage not just your own feelings, but someone else's. That takes energy most people don't realize they're spending. But here's the deeper truth. Sometimes the delay isn't about energy at all. It's about control. In a world where everyone expects instant responses, where you're supposed to be available all the time, delaying a reply is one of the few ways you can reclaim your time and attention. It's your brain saying, "I'll engage when I'm ready, not when the notification tells me to." You're not being difficult. You're setting a boundary, even if you don't realize that's what you're doing. And there's actually something valuable about this behavior. People who take their time to respond tend to give more thoughtful, considered answers when they finally do. You're not firing off whatever comes to mind in the moment. You're letting the conversation breathe. You're giving yourself space to think about what you actually want to say instead of what feels socially required. In a culture of instant everything, that's rare. And honestly, it's kind of powerful. But here's where it gets tricky. There's a difference between taking time to respond thoughtfully and avoiding conversations because they make you uncomfortable. If you're taking a day or two because you genuinely need space to process, that's healthy. That's self-awareness. But if you're leaving messages unread for weeks because you're terrified of conflict, or you don't want to disappoint someone, or you're hoping the problem will disappear if you ignore it long enough. That's avoidance. And avoidance doesn't solve anything. It just delays the discomfort and usually makes it worse. So here's the question. When you finally do reply days later, do you feel relieved? Or do you feel more anxious than you did before you opened the conversation? If you recognized yourself in this video, you're not a bad friend. You're not unreliable. You're not broken. What you're experiencing is called asynchronous communication anxiety. It's the tension between what digital culture expects from you and what your brain actually has capacity for. You read the message, you care about the person, you're just responding on your own timeline. And that's allowed. If this resonated with you, please subscribe. Your subscription really matters to our channel and helps us keep creating content about the psychology of behaviors people judge but don't understand. And drop a comment letting me know what city you're watching from. I'm curious where all the late repliers are hiding. Next video, we're talking about the psychology of people who delete their posts in the morning. You know exactly what I'm talking about. See you at midnight.